Welcome and thank you to Darren for joining the MDs in Manufacturing podcast, a podcast that allows Yorkshire business leaders to share useful insights on their role and their businesses. I'm Kerry Hope, Managing Director, owner of Castle Employment Group, and it's an honour today to welcome Daren Wallis, CEO of Cirrus Research PLC. Darren, how are you today?
Oh, brilliant, thank you, Kerry. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Darren, just to get us started and to allow our listeners to understand in more detail, what is Cirrus Research famous for?
What's Sirrus famous for? So my kind of elevator pitch is we stop people going deaf. So we're in a niche industry manufacturing high-tech acoustic instrumentation to measure noise, to mainly noise at work, health and safety at work, but also environmental. So for example, around airports, infrastructure, any noise that affects you outside of a business. And as part of that group, we've also got a subcontract electronics manufacturing company called Contract Production as well.
Great stuff. That certainly allows our listeners to be able to understand what type of manufacturing you're in and how that might resonate with them, the kinds of things we're going to be talking about. So you're now leading a business with a really strong heritage and global reach. What was your own journey into the business, into manufacturing, and what ultimately led you to become the MD at Sirrus?
Wow, great question. So I'm second generation family. So my father started the business back in 1970, and I've been in and around the business all my life, I guess, without knowing it. And I'm the youngest of 5 siblings, none of whom worked in the business. And I did a degree in electronics at Newcastle and graduated around about 91, 92.
Giving your age away.
Yeah, I know. And there was a recession at that point, and so I came to help out at Sirrus, and kind of the rest is history. 30 odd years later, I'm still here. And in terms of what led me to be MD, it was a management buyout, effectively, even though it's become more of a family business because 2 of my children work here. At that point, it probably wasn't, and my father retired, and some of the engineers did a management buyout, of which I was one. And 20 years later, I'm MD and CEO of the group.
Brilliant. And was there any department within the business over those 30 years that you found yourself most in your flow? Is there an area where you keep going back to when it gets, when there's the opportunity to?
Well, I'm a bit of a dabbler, but yes. So my degree was electronics. But I realised at that stage I was never going to be the best designer in the world. So when I did my options at university, I did more of the software, more of the management style options. So I realised what my passion and skills were, solving problems. So I'd started at Sirrus as a design engineer. Not a particularly good one, but I kind of could do most things averagely well. But I picked up all the gaps because at that time the company was still quite a hobby, really. It was professional, but quite a hobby. So we didn't really have a production manager to speak of. We didn't hold stock. But I could see, especially because us as engineers, we were expected to be the commercial department. So we went to see big clients, we went to win tenders, those sorts of things. So we're getting quite an education in the commercial side of engineering as well. So I just took those roles upon myself. So I became production manager without a job title, without mission really, just force of character maybe, I don't know what you want to call it. I managed to get much quicker deliveries without holding any stock, and it kind of went from there really.
Right, brilliant. Well, thank you for that background, and leads me on to my next question really nice actually. Obviously, manufacturers are currently facing all kinds of pressures this year: skills, costs, supply chain, increased customer expectations, and for a business like Sirrus exporting globally while manufacturing entirely in the UK, what are the main challenges keeping you on your toes right now in your role for Sirrus?
The main challenges for us at Sirrus are really a combination of the last 5 years. You think, yourself, in the last 5 years in business, we've dealt with COVID, which basically shut the world down for 6 months at least. And the knock-on effect on the global supply chain from that was huge. We saw more of an impact in the 18 months, 2 years afterwards than we saw during COVID, really. COVID was kind of a fight for getting through it, but trying to get going again was quite a challenge. As an exporter with an office in France and one in Germany, Brexit becoming a reality, the end of the year of COVID was also quite a challenge. Our response to COVID Brexit, was to open a GmbH in Germany. We had a dependent branch before that, which is a special legal entity, but we had to open a GmbH. So we ended up recruiting and starting a business, recruiting, I think, 3 people from scratch, having never met them, because we couldn't travel for COVID. That was quite a challenge. And in more recent times, it's the kind of political uncertainty, the recent changes to employment law that have come in and coming in, the national insurance rise, just a big impact on a business of our size. Also, as a second generation family business, the future of inheritance tax and passing businesses through families is also a consideration. We're having to rethink our longer term plans at the moment, as many companies are.
Yeah, it's a balance, such a hard balance, isn't it? Trying to balance daily political changes as we're seeing daily versus that long-term inheritance tax. Business leaders more and more need to be kept on the toes, don't they? And they're certainly doing that for us. Sirrus is known for, certainly for the time that I've known you, and I can see externally that you're really well known for continuous product development. Is there anything that you would like to highlight and share with listeners on what changes have helped drive efficiency or value within the business?
In terms of development, we do aim to have something new every 6 months, and that's kind of a longer term strategy, partly commercial. So if a product design or change doesn't work, then or we don't predict the marketplace well enough, or the desire well enough, another crack at the cherry in that year. One thing I have noticed since COVID, or whether it is just it would have happened anyway, attracting the right people is getting harder and harder. We've generally now got vacancies for electronic design engineers, software engineers, pretty much constantly. Although in our earlier days, when I first started, that was policy anyway. We just kept our ear to the ground, and if we met somebody, we kind of followed that good to great philosophy, get the right people on the bus and then figure out what they're going to do. It's strange in electronics design and product design. From my time as a designer 30 years ago, 25 years ago, tools now are so complex and so efficient, but the outcome requirements are now equally complex and multi-layered. So it doesn't feel like it's got any more efficient to develop products at our end of the market than it was 20 years ago.
And what you're saying there is that the lack of the electronic designers coming through might actually slow down your appetite to continue with that continuous product development.
Absolutely. I mean, the degree course I did, which coincidentally one of my elder brothers did the same course 10 years before me, just doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't exist, which surprised me when we went to fairly local universities with a range of about 150 miles. Some of the courses that were traditionally there just don't exist. We have a lot of people coming through with degrees in computer gaming, which is high tech, but it's quite a niche and doesn't really reflect back on what we do, really.
Yeah, okay. It's interesting times. It probably leads us on actually nicely to the conversation that we wanted to have around people, and you've mentioned you employ highly skilled engineers and really technical staff, and I know that over time you're passionate about bringing apprentices through too. So is there a way that you would like to share with other listeners that what you're doing to try and retain your staff as well as attracting, and then go on to talk about how you're leading them in these uncertain times, as we're probably classifying them as?
Yeah, in terms of retention, I still have this desire to keep the business almost in the same, not size, date it was when I came on board. You know, it attracted me to work here. A lot of other people. I'm not the longest serving member of the team. There's quite a few people been here 30 years, 20 years, 15 years, 10 years. So it's sticking with the basics of knowing everybody's name, and again with the kids, that's a personal touch. But also we do an awful lot. The way I looked at it about 10 years ago is I spent probably more time in this building than I did at home. Therefore it's got to be kind of fun. So I do try and do that. And we do all the typical things. We do a quarterly award which the team vote for, where they can vote for their colleagues on who's demonstrated our values.
Brilliant.
And we do a draw of a hat. We're going to do something every quarter. So last quarter we went and did glass blowing, stained glass, and a lunch. We're going to a tour of the whisky distillery next quarter, and then going for an afternoon tea. Just little things like that.
The recognition.
Yeah, And what I also do, we tell the people who've been voted, even if they don't get their name drawn up the hat to do the event, which could be limited numbers, they get to hear what their colleagues have said about them, which I think is quite a
Lovely.
powerful message, really.
It
We
really
have a
is.
monthly Star of the Month, which is basically somebody gets their favourite sweets for the month for just going above and beyond. And just little things. I was in Round Table years ago, and I followed that model with my teams. I generally try and have somebody who's been in the team a while, and then somebody who's fairly new to the team, and they organise something either monthly or every 2 months, a social event. New people who join the team, they get to meet everybody, and they get somebody that they talk to outside of the day-to-day business. And that seems to work quite well. All sorts of things with that. But I guess it's trying to lead with the culture as well. Innovation, resourcefulness, responsibility, and collaboration. And that kind of esprit de corps is velocity, which can be a challenge because I like to do things yesterday. But yeah, we do try and push those values wherever we can.
Fabulous. And when you're looking to attract with where you're based and who your competition are around locally or nationally, how are you managing to share all of that culture and recognition type things that's obviously important in your business, and that's why you've retained the people? Do you have an attraction strategy, thinking about how you're positioned locally? How are you looking to attract those skills that you do need and that you're going to continue needing to keep growing?
Yeah, we kind of try and use every method that's available. And I'm big on constant development, so I'm a member of a few business groups or network groups and just picking up snippets of things that people have tried or haven't tried, what worked, what might have worked. We do have a company brochure which explains what we are, what we've been, what we're trying to be, and a bit about the area too, because we're both in the same geographical area, a bit out on a limb in some respects. So we try and push the virtues of the area as well. And just really ear to the ground. And we use all the other methods. We work with you guys, we meet around. I have noticed in the last 18 months a lot of recruits from further afield, which is now easier because the world's got used to hybrid working. Although in manufacturing, around about 50% of the roles we've got could be done remotely.
And I think that's probably going to be, I'm looking after the podcast to try and get some round, and I think that in itself is a conversation for MDs in manufacturing businesses to be talking about how to get that balance of hybrid, how it's fair, how it's managed, how we push forward to still be able to attract the people that really benefit and work hard under a hybrid model whilst making it fair across the business. It's a conversation I'm having frequently in this sector specifically that makes it very difficult, because if you're a production worker, you're on a line often and there's no flexibility. So other things I've been speaking to them about is actually it's not hybrid, but it's just how flexible are you as an employer when your job has to be in the office or in production. You can still be flexible. So it's just ways, isn't it, that that the market needs to keep up to get that best talent if that's what they're looking for. Yeah, sure. It's attraction and retention is really topical at the moment. Whether it's entering new markets or investing in technology and expanding any of your services, is there one bold decision that you've made as MD that has really shaped the direction of Sirrus that you can think of that you'd like to share, where you think, that was the decision that secured that client or that account or that product or that direction that you made whilst you're in MD that you'd like to share with the listeners today?
Yeah, so when we went through the management buyout, I didn't have any formal management experience at all, but I knew what our business did and what our market was. So I went through a university course at Cranfield University called the Business Growth Programme. That had been 2008, very early 2008. So if you remember that far back, the world, we were in a bit of a recession, 2009. And I'd focus on management buyout as being the end point rather than what was next. And what that experience taught me was how to think about what was next. So I soaked up every single snippet of information over an 8-week period. And I had an opportunity where one of our suppliers, a key supplier, a very key supplier, almost too key, were going through a management buyout, and it fell through. So I, fresh with lots of thoughts from this business program, waded in, full of enthusiasm and maybe a little bit of lacking of skill, and purchased the assets of the supplier, which is now Contract Production in Pickering. Now the second biggest part of the group, employs nearly 40 people. So that was kind of a big decision to go on the acquisition trail, having only just gone through the process of learning the formal side of running a business.
Yeah.
And that worked. I remember opening the doors the first day we got the keys with an order on the fax machine. That's how long ago it was, for about £250. We started, we got an order.
Brilliant. Is there anything from that process that you learnt from, or that you would do differently from looking back with hindsight?
Yeah, absolutely. It goes back to culture. I underestimated, because I'd been at Sirrus for such a long time and we had a culture, and I was part of that culture. The team, we didn't really realise we had a culture. It was just, it's what we did and how we got by. Taking another business had gone through a really rocky patch, and the team were very, very wary of the future. They were wary of the new owners, understandably. And I probably didn't spend anywhere near as enough time there at the start. I probably thought incorrectly. The ownership, all the problems that may have been there will have gone overnight. And it took me 3 or 4 years to get it moving, in the right balance of being there. I had a great phrase back from my Vistage days of snouting but trotters out, and I was very much snout and trotters in. It's pulling my trotters out and letting the team do it. And also I underestimated as well. I thought every business was kind of the same, and the financial reporting and the financial side of that business is very different to Sirrus. There's quite a lot of capital tied up in quite expensive machinery that needed replacing, which is something at Sirrus, without the manufacturing plant, I wasn't used to. So again, it was a learning curve for me. It took a few years, but at the moment it's arguably the fastest growing part of the group, and I've got Andy in there now, a guy called Andy Charles, doing a brilliant job, and his team there. And I hopefully give the right amount of guidance, but don't get too involved. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, fantastic. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? And it's great that you can learn from that for as and when the next one happens. So it probably moves us nicely onto technology and AI. And I know obviously you are in business groups, so I'm sure that you're talking frequently across those in terms of how AI can impact different businesses and what we do to utilise it. Have you started to use, or has it started to influence how you're developing any products, or how anybody in your team or your customers using AI at this stage for you?
Absolutely. So one of the projects I've been involved in, I looked at trying to commercialise AI rather than add efficiency. So we're working with a partner to add AI technology to one of our products that already exists. So it's adding AI power to the reporting and the data the end user gets rather than the product.
Okay.
And that's going quite well. And that's a software as a service subscription model, which is quite good. Turn on and off by the user if they want it.
Brilliant.
My design team, they can use AI to both verify sort of segments of computer code for efficiency, for bugs, but also to help document it. As an ex-software engineer myself, there's nothing worse than having to document your code. I mean, somebody else can check it. So yeah, they can use AI to document that. But it came with other business challenges. You know, as an engineer, I got quite carried away with the tech of it all. But I think as a business, you've got to get it right. You don't want too much information being put out into the public domain. So I've got those things, but I guess you have as well. And we do use it for the run things, writing better copy, that sort of thing, split testing copy to know which marketing method works better or not. But we have got an AI champion, which is now me in the business. We had a person who was on a 2.5 year temporary contract with us, Giovanni, who you know. He was our AI champion, and his contract ended. So I'm the AI champion, and we've got 2 guys. One's a software guy, one's an IT guy. They are the real kind of what we can do with AI. And it's making sure we don't try and do everything. That's the key thing.
Yeah, it is.
To stay in focus. But we are now looking at ways of being more efficient internally. So, for example, production planning is one of the things we're looking at the moment. We're also looking at maybe a virtual customer support person at the moment, see what that entails.
Yeah.
We're also doing the thing where if we do have somebody leave the business, we rather than immediately look at recruit, think, okay, AI, and maybe spread the load amongst the team.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're hearing and what we're seeing is that it's not necessarily a replacement of a person. It's that when you go to hire, to expand, to get what your next stage is, or if somebody were to leave naturally, that you would just stop and consider that before you do what you would always do. I think that's where I'm hearing the majority are doing. And then the other challenges come with mandating it and making sure everybody's using it properly and correctly, isn't it? And then which type and who does it, because nobody really has any capacity, do they? So everybody's got the great ideas, and I know you and I have spoken about it before, where if you could wave a wand, all of your ideas, because you're an ideas person, would be implemented and you'd be super efficient. But it's actually finding the person that's got the time to follow through on all of the ideas when it comes to things like automation and AI. So thank you for sharing that with me. And I think we just have got time for a topical question around export and tariffs, because obviously you export worldwide. So I just wondered how you're navigating challenges of trading internationally at the moment, but obviously whilst manufacturing everything here in the UK.
Yeah, so over the years, a bit like AI, looking into manufacturing overseas has popped up probably every 7 or 8 years, and it's just another desire we've got, really. I've got cultural reasons why we do what we do, and one of them is to bring back to the UK economy and the local economy. So offshoring at our level as well, we're a niche, is quite challenging. And the recent change of tariffs, I saw something on the BBC website this morning about tariffs with the EU and the US. While that's a hot meaty potato at the moment, tariffs have been in existence forever, and we navigate tariffs everywhere else we sell. So in fact, the tariffs recently was one of the few benefits of Brexit I could see, where we got away relatively scot-free with the tariffs, the short-term tariffs in America. So we navigate it anyway, and we document what we need to do, and we use things like the Chamber of Commerce to help us and assist us. We're training people up, but it is a moving target at the moment, it seems.
Yeah.
We also, with Brexit, was a similar sort of thing, really. Getting things to Europe changed with Brexit. We've now got stock of product and a calibration centre in Frankfurt. So we train the team there, so we get the goods to Europe and then they circulate it, do the logistics around Europe. But it's always been the case. We export around about 60 for output, so we've been doing that forever, really.
Right. Yeah. So nothing's really changed on that. Well, thank you for summarising that for me, and thanks for joining me on this episode of MDs in Manufacturing. It's been really fascinating to hear about your journey and how you're leading a Yorkshire business that's got a huge global reach, and you're obviously staying true to your heritage of innovation despite the challenges that we're all faced with. So insights into balancing production with worldwide demand and investing in all the new tech, as well as trying to constantly find that pipeline of the right skills to make sure that you keep growing, I'm sure will resonate with any MDs facing similar challenges. So thanks for sharing all of that with me today, Darren.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. For everyone listening, I hope this conversation has given you practical ideas and inspiration about how to lead through change and continue to innovate. If you enjoyed the episode, please like, share with your network, and please subscribe to MDs in Manufacturing so you never miss future conversations with leaders who are living these challenges every day. Darren, thanks again for being part of today's discussion, and thank you to everyone for listening. I look forward to sharing great conversations soon.